In this video, I want to take a look at how to multiply and divide fractions. Now, there's 3 examples here that we'll work through together, and then on the next page, there's 3 practice questions for you to have a go at. Now, multiplying fractions is the easiest, really, of the operations. So, to multiply fractions, all we do is we multiply the numerators together. So, 1 times by 3. And then we do the same with the denominator. So, 4 times by 5. And all we need to do now is evaluate the numerator and the denominator separately. So 1 times by 3 gives me 3. And then 4 times by 5 gives me 20. So we get 3 over 20 for the first example. Now for the second one here, we're dividing this time. Now dividing is a little bit more complicated, but it's not too bad. Essentially, when you divide fractions, we turn it into a multiplication problem. So the way we do this is using something called KCF. And KCF tells us how to turn this into a multiplication problem. So we keep the first fraction. So we keep the first fraction. The C here tells us that we change the division now to a times. So we change division to multiplication. So change. And then the F here tells us that we flip the last fraction. So instead of it being 1 over 2, it becomes 2 over 1. So if you are familiar with it, this is the reciprocal. So we flip the last fraction. So doing that for this one here then, well, we keep the 1 over 4, that's the K. Then we change the division to be a times, so change that to be a times, and then we flip the last fraction. So instead of it being 1 over 2, it becomes 2 over 1. And all we do now is we multiply like we did here. So like you can see, we've turned it now into this multiplication problem. So multiplying the numerators together, we do 1 times by 2. And then multiplying the denominators together, 4 times by 1. So evaluating here, 1 times by 2 is 2. 4 times by 1 is 4. So we get 2 over 4. And we can actually simplify this. If we divide top and bottom here by 2, we get 1 over 2. And there we have it. So that's our solution to the second example. And then the final example here, again, we are just timesing. So remember, we just multiply the numerators together. So 5 times by 2. Do the same with the denominator now. So 8 times by 3. So 5 times by 2 is 10. 8 times by 3 is 24. So we get 10 over 24. But again, we can simplify this. So if we divide top and bottom here by 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And then 24 divided by 2 is 12. So we get 5 over 12 for the final example. So we've worked through 3 examples together, so now it's your turn. So there's 3 practice questions here. Like always, pause the video now, have a quick go, and then we'll take a look in a moment at what you should have got. So hopefully you got an okay with these practice questions. Let's take a look now at what you should have got. So for this first one here, we are dividing, so we need to use KCF. So remember, we keep the first fraction, we change the division to be a times, and then we flip the last fraction. So keep the 3 over 10. So we get 3 over 10. We then change this division to be a times. And then we flip this 1 over 2 to be 2 over 1. So in this case now, we just multiply across by the numerator. So 3 times by 2. And then we do the same for the denominator. So 10 times by 1. So 3 times by 2 would give me 6. 10 times by 1 would give me 10. So 6 over 10, and again, we can simplify this. Divide top and bottom here by 2, and we get 3 over 5 there. Okay, so 3/5, that's our solution to the first question. Now for the next one here, we are just simply multiplying. So remember, we just multiply the numerators together, so 3 times by 4. Do the same with the denominators here, so we've got 7 times 7, so 7 squared. Well, 3 times 4 is 12. 7 times 7, so 7 squared, that would give us 49, and then we get 12 over 49. We can't simplify this any further, so we've got it in its simplest form. And for the very last question here, we've got a division one again, so 2 over 7 divided by 1 over 3. So use KCF again, so keep the first fraction, so we get 2 over 7. Then we change the division to be a times, and then this 1 over 3, we flip that, so it becomes 3 over 1. Now we multiply across, so 2 times by 3. Do the same with the denominator, so 7 times by 1. So in this case now we do 2 times 3 giving us 6, 7 times by 1 giving us 7. And in that case we get 6 over 7. So that brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully you find multiplying and dividing fractions quite straightforward. In the next video we're going to take a look at working with mixed numbers and improper fractions.